Hi, this is Storyteller Mitch. Welcome to my readings. I have another book here called The Red Dog. I got this from the Innisfail Public Library. I get most of my books from them. I usually get like a bag for $1. If you're always looking for new books, just go to your local library, and they always have like little sales like that. Well, most of them do. This book is called The Red Dog by the author Louis de Berniéres, and I know I butchered that. And I've read some of it before. It's basically a series of stories about a dog. And the first one, part 1, From Tallyho to Red Dog, is the first little story is called Stinker. "Struth!" exclaimed Jack Collins. "That dog's a real stinker. I don't know how he puts up with himself. If I dropped bombs like that, I'd walk around with my head in a paper bag, just to protect myself." "Everyone likes their own smells," said Mrs. Collins. Jack raised his eyebrows and smirked at her. So she added, "Or so they say." "Well, it's too much for me, Maureen. He's going to have to go out in the yard." "It's his diet," said Maureen. "Eating what he eats, it's going to make smells. And he gulps it down so fast he must be swallowing air." "Tally would let off even if you fed him on roses," said her husband, shaking his head, half in wonder. "Shame it's a talent you can't be paid for. We'd be millionaires. You know what I think? We should hire him out to the Air Force. You could drop him in enemy territory. He'd neutralize it for 3 days, more or less, and then you could send in the paratroops. It'd be a new era in airborne warfare." "I don't like any matches. He's done it again." "Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Don't light any matches. He's done it again," said Maureen, holding her nose with her left hand and waving her right hand back and forth across her face. "Tally, you're a bad dog." Tallyho looked up at her with one yellow eye, keeping the other one closed for the sake of economy, and thumbed his tail on the floor a couple of times. He had noted the affectionate tone in her voice, and took her words to praise. She was lying on his side, a little bit bloated after gnawing on the oldest of bones. He was only a year old, so his oldest bone was not too old, but it certainly had plenty of flavors and all the wind-creating properties of which Tallyho was particularly fond. Tally was the most notorious canine despot in the whole neighborhood, and people delighted in presenting him with unearthly objects and encouraging him to eat them. With apparent relish he ate paper bags, sticks, dead rats, butterflies, feathers, apple peel, eggshells, used tissues, and socks. On top of that, Tally ate the same food as the rest of the family, and as his moment carried on his stomach a goodly load of yesterday's mashed potatoes, gravy, and steak, and kidney pie. Ugh, kidney pie. That sounds pretty nasty. Hold on. I honestly have no idea. Oh, now it shows the pause. I have no idea how to pause. I use an Asus computer. Anyway. This is not to say that Tally ever rated dustbins or news on garbage. That would have been very much beneath his dignity, and in any case, he had never found it necessary that he had lacked success in obtaining perfectly good food from human beings, and ate odd things in good faith just because human beings offered them to him. He made up his own mind so that was worth eating again, and Wiltsey would probably be quite happy to eat more eggshells so as long as they still had some traces of egg in them. He probably wouldn't try another feather. I'm going to take him to the airport, said Jack. He can work off some energy and get some of that gas out. He went to the door and turned. Tallyho was looking at him beneath unexpected. Sorry. Tallyho was looking at him expectantly. Both yellow eyes opened this time. His ears had pricked up at the magic word airport. Run time, said Jack, and Tally sprang to his feet in an instant, bouncing up and down with pleasure as if the floor was a trampoline. The caravan shook and glasses and cutlery in the cupboard started to rattle. Tallyho seemed to be grinning with pleasure. He was shaking his head from side to side and yelping. Get him out of here before he demolishes the whole place, said Maureen, and Jack stood aside for Tallyho to shoot out of the door like a cork from a bottle of champagne. He bounded out of the small garden and then did some more, bouncing up and down outside the car. Jack opened the back door, said, Hop in, and Tallyho jumped onto the back seat. In an instant he hopped over and sat in the front seat. Jack opened the front passenger door and ordered, Out! Tally looked at him coolly and then deliberately looked away. He had suddenly gone deaf, it appeared, and had found something in the far distance that was terribly interesting. Tally, out! Repeated Jack, and Tally pretended to be looking at a magpie that was flying over the caravan. Jack used to be in the Australian Army, and he liked his orders to be obeyed. He didn't take it lightly when he was ignored by a subordinate. He quickly picked Tally bodily off the seat and deposited him in the back. Stay, he said, wagging his forefinger at the dog, who looked up at him innocently as he would never consider doing the slightest thing amiss. Jack closed the door and went round to the driver's side. He got in, opened all the windows, started the engine, and called over his shoulder, No bomb dropping in the car, understood? Tally waited until the Land Rover had started off down the road before springing lightly once more over onto the front passenger seat. He sat down quickly and stuck his head out of the window into the breeze, so that he would have a good excuse for not hearing his master telling him to get in the back. Jack raised his eyebrows, shook his head, and sighed. Tallyho was an obstinate dog, without a doubt, and didn't consider himself to be anyone's subordinate, not even Jack's. It never occurred to him that he was anything less than equal, and that in that respect you might say that he was rather like a cat, although he probably wouldn't have liked the comparison. 7 kilometers away, the car stopped outside the perimeter fence of Paraburdu Airport. Tallyho was let out. A Cessna light aircraft bounced along the runway and took off. Tally chased its shadow along the ground and pounced on it. The shadow sped on, and Tally ran after it in delight, repeatedly bouncing and wondering at its escape. Jack got back into the car and drove away. He blew the horn, and Tally picked up his ears. It was a red-hot day in February, which in Australia is in the middle of summer, and all the vegetation was looking as if it had been dried in an oven. It was one of those days when you are physically shocked by the heat if you go outdoors. The sun's feels like a flat of a hot knife laid directly onto your face. The air shimmers, distorting your views of a distance, and you can't believe that it really is that hot, even if you have lived there for years, and ought to be used to it. If you have a bald patch and you aren't wearing a hat, it feels as though the skin on top of your head is made of paper and has just set alight. It seems as if the heat is going straight through your shirt, so you go fast as you can from one bit of shade to another, and everything looks quite as if the sun has abolished the whole notion of color. Even the red earth looks less red. Visitors to that place can't believe that the mining companies are actually allowed to leave all those heaps of red stones and red earth all over the place without caring about it at all. But the strange fact is that all those heaps and piles were put there by nature, as if she had whimsically decided to mimic the most untidy and careless behavior of mankind itself. The difference is that nature managed to do it all without the help of bulldozers, diggers, and dumper trucks. Through this ungentle landscape galloped Tallyho, raising his own little plume of red dust in the wake of greater plume raised by Jack Collins' car. His whole body thrilled with the pleasure of running, even though the day was at white heat, and even though he had to blink his eyes against the dust. He was young and strong. He had more energy than his muscles would make use of. The world was still fresh and wonderful. He understood the joy of going full tilt to achieve the impossible. Therefore, he ran after his owner's car as if he could catch it with no trouble at all. As far as he was concerned, he really did catch it, because after 7 because I am so sorry. All right. Because after 7 kilometers, there it was, parked outside the caravan, its engine tickling as it cooled down, having given up the chase. Too tired to continue, as for Tally, he could have run another 7 kilometers and then another again and caught the car 3 times over. When he arrived home, he came leaping through the door, headed straight for his bowl of water and slurped it empty. Then, his tongue hanging out and leaving drips along the lino, he went back outside and lay down in the shade of a black mulga tree. That evening, Mrs. Collins opened up a big can of Trusty, and Jack set his stopwatch to 0. Tallyho had a special gift for bolting food at lightning speed, and so far his record was a whole 700-gram can was 11 seconds flat. Tallyho put his forepaws up on the table to watch the meat going into his bowl, and Mrs. Collins put on her curt tone of voice and said, "Down, Tally, lie down." He slumped down on the floor and put on his most athletic and appealing expression so that she felt sorry for him, and even though she knew it was only an act, he sighed and raised the first one eyebrow and then another. His whole body was quivering with anticipation, the muscles in his legs just waiting for the moment when he could hurl himself at his dinner. "Are you ready?" asked Mrs. Collins, and Jack Collins nodded. He put the bowl down on the floor. Tally leaped up, and Jack pressed the timer on a stopwatch. "Crikey," he declared. "One hungry mongrel, 10 seconds. Truly impressive." Tally cleaned his bowl conscientiously with his tongue and then cleaned it again to make sure. When there was definitely not one atom of food left in it, he strolled outside and lay down once more under the shade of the tree, his stomach feeling pleasantly stretched, and very soon fell asleep. He dreamed of food and adventuring. When he woke up a half hour later, fully restored, he lay for a while enjoying the way that the evening was cooling off, and thought about going walkabout. He felt curious about what might be going on in the wide world, and the thought of missing out on something made him feel uneasy. He got to his feet and stood still for a moment, whilst he thought a little more, and then set off past the other caravans and into the wilderness. He found the path worn through the spine vexed by kangaroos, and set off joyfully down it, quickly losing all the sense of time, completely absorbed by all the mysterious smells and noises. He was sure that he could find a bilby or a quoll. In the morning, Jack Collins said, "I think Tally's gone bush again." And Maureen Collins replied, "I'm worried that one day he's going to disappear forever." "Don't say that," said her husband. "He always comes back eventually." "It's the call of the wild versus the call of the supper dish," laughed Mrs. Collins. "He always seems to come back well fed, though. Maybe he's got other people feeding him." "Wouldn't surprise me," said Jack. "Tally's no slouch when it comes to tucker." 3 days later, just when the couple had almost given up hope of ever seeing him again, Tallyho reappeared, bang on time for supper. He was dusty, his stomach was nice and full, his nose had a long scratch on it, courtesy of a feral cat that he met on the route trail, and he was grinning with self-satisfaction. That night, he polished off a big can of Pal in 9 seconds flat. And again, this was one of the stories from the book Red Dog by Louis de Berniéres called The Stinker. I'm going to go one story at a time. Let me know if you want to keep going with the stories. For sure, I will be finishing Lady Precious stream though. Okay? Thank you very much. Oh yeah, and support your local libraries. They always sell like fun little books. Bye.